Alright, good morning, guys. I am on the road right now, obviously. I don't know why I always say what I'm doing. I am picking up a piece of paper. But for some reason, I started thinking of things that I used to do in this little town I grew up in. My favorite town in the entire world. It's called Andover, Ohio. It's right on the border of Pennsylvania. We moved there when I was about 8 years old. And I'm going to take you guys to this town one day. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to film. There's a lot of things I want to show you. Places where I used to go ice fishing. And there's a place called Linesville. It's actually in Pennsylvania. And people go to this place there called the Spillway to feed the fish. And it's just a bunch of carp. But there are so many of them that they're like jumping all over each other. And there are so many of them in this area that the ducks walk. They just walk on the backs of the fish. It's absolutely crazy, but we used to go there all the time. And one of the things I was thinking of was when we first moved there, I was 8 years old, and my dad was a preacher at the little church down the street. And we were meeting some people. We had a couple come over who had some kids, and my parents apparently didn't want the kids to come in the house, or maybe their parents didn't want them to come in the house or something. But anyway, I was in the house along with my brother and sister, and the other boys were running around outside. And what we were doing so that we could play together was the one kid would bring me in those little helicopter things. I may have told this story before. He'd bring in those little helicopter-looking things with the seeds that come off the trees, and you drop them and they like flutter down. Well, he would gather up a bunch of those and he would bring them to me at the front door, and I would run upstairs to my bedroom and I would drop them out the window, my bedroom window, and they would all go fluttering down, and we'd laugh, and he'd pick them up and he'd run around and bring them to me at the front door again. And guys, yes, I did tell this story because I remember telling the guardian angel story, and this is true. I'm not even making this up. I was upstairs in my room, and I dropped this handful of these helicopter things. They went fluttering down, and I'm laughing, and I went running down the stairs, and the stairs came down and then straight shot to the front door, and we had like a storm door, I guess you would call it. I wanted to call it a screen door, but it was glass in that door. I went running towards it, and I put out my hand because it had the kind of door latch that you pressed on it, and it would open the door, if that makes sense. Put out my hand, and I reached for that, and I went straight through the plate glass. And I've got long sleeves on right now, so I can't show you, but I have a scar, about a 3 or 4 inch scar on. It's called the anacubital, the inner aspect of your arm where your elbow bends. Where I went straight through that plate glass window, and the shards of glass, one of them went straight into my arm, and my guardian angel like threw her arms around me and yanked me right back through that door back into the house. Guys, there's no other way that it could have happened. I mean, I should have gone straight through there. The shards of glass sticking up from the bottom should have gone straight through my stomach, and I should have been dead. But my guardian angel yanked me back into the house, and that's why I am alive today, talking to you, telling you that God is good. So that's not what the story's about, but, a very important part of the story. So I was rushed to the emergency room, and I was given all these stitches, and it sucked. But that's one of the memories I was sitting here thinking about. Another one is that, I never hated school. I never had an idea that I should hate school until one day we were going to school. My dad took us, and my sister was sitting in the back seat. Now, this wasn't in Andover. This was before Andover. But my sister was sitting in the back seat screaming and yelling and crying because she did not want to go to school and she hates school. And I was just sitting there like a little kid, innocent and didn't really understand what was going on. But I remember distinctly sitting there beside her, looking at her, watching her cry and scream that she hated school and didn't want to go, as if school was the worst thing in the world. And I remember that's what planted it in my head. And I was like, well, maybe I hate school too. Maybe I don't want to go. And I started going nuts. So I can only imagine what my dad had to go through that day. But when we got to Andover, like the first day going, I just was beside myself. I did not want to go to school. I hated school, thanks to my sister. And the school was only so far down the street. It was quite a ways. It was probably about a mile and a half. And you go down my street and you make this turn out to the main road, turn left, down that main road just a little bit, and then into the big school parking lot. And so my mom took me to school. I didn't know anybody except for like the one kid that had been at my house. That was it. Maybe a couple kids from the church. But I was going into 4th grade, and I went into the school, and I followed the instructions, walked down into the cafeteria, sat down at the table there, and the anxiety just built and built and built. Oh my God, there's about 1,000 seagulls over there. Anyways, look, you can see them in the mirror there. Through the window. But anyways, so the anxiety was just building and building and building as I'm looking around at all these other kids who knew each other and had friends, and they were joking and playing and laughing and whatever. And I got up and I took off, man. I ran as fast as I could run, and I ran all the way home and went up to the door. And I hadn't planned this part out, but when I got up to the door, I knocked on the door, and my mom came into the door, and she had not even got sat down yet. That's how fast I got home. She had gone straight from the school all the way back home. And, I went into school, sat down, and then ran as fast as I could. Got back to the house just about the time she did. And then she made me go to school. So that was just, I don't know, that was another memory from Andover that I was thinking about here. So, and whenever I go out there, I'll show you these places. I'll show you where I lived. I'll show you the school. We'll go on down to Linesville to feed the fish and watch the ducks walk on their back. And another thing that we used to do, it was just a small little town, and it had a square. And this was back in the 80s. This was at a time when you could let your kids just go run the town all day long, and that was it. Be home before dark, and that was the end of the story. But one of the things we would do, we had bikes. We'd go on our bike rides and just go flying around the town, through all these parking lots at the bank and everything, and then around that town square and back home. And one of the things I remember all the time was we would always order pizza from a place called Fiore and Tony's. There was another place called Covered Bridge, which is the best pizza I've ever had in my life to this day. I even have a Covered Bridge pizza box hanging on my wall in my office. I love it so much. But that's for another day, because in this story we're going to Fiore and Tony's. And my dad would order a pizza, and what he would do is call down there and he would say, hey, I want to order a pizza, but do you have any that anybody ordered and didn't pick up that we could get for a discount? And amazingly, a lot of times we got one. Now, I don't know if it was actually that people ordered them and didn't pick them up, or if they were just sell it at the discount, whatever, make a little bit of money. But we would order the pizza, then we would jump on our bikes. And my sister had a little dog. Its name was Muffin. It was a Cocker Spaniel. Cocker Spaniel? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Cocker Spaniel. Fluffy little thing. She'd put that dog in the basket on the front of her bike. And we would just go flying down around town to pick up the pizza. It was so much fun. And you know what? A lot of times when we get home, we would sleep out on the front porch. Like, we had a nice big front porch, and I mean, it was probably about, I don't know, 8 feet by, I don't know, 20 feet, 24 feet, you know, the width of the house. And then it had like these big rails up around the edges, and we would pull out our sleeping bags and pillows and blankets just as much as we could, and we'd make these big nests on the front porch, and we'd sleep out on the porch overnight. You know, again, that was a time when you didn't have to worry about being abducted from your front yard. We would and whenever we did that, we would always be raising heck around the neighborhood, like daring each other to do things. Because it would be me and my brother and my sister, and we would be daring each other to do things like, right across the street, what is this guy doing? Get out of my face. I've got a little bit of road rage there for you. Anyways, so my sister would usually be the one that's daring us to do all the bad stuff. And, you know, we always had like fireworks, firecrackers and stuff. So we'd steal them out of my dad's desk, and my sister would dare us to go light fireworks and throw them in a dumpster across the street that belonged to the apartment building across the street. And we would do it, or else we would just go over to the dumpster, we hide behind it, and we would grab the top, the metal lid, and we'd slam it a bunch of times. We were absolutely nuts. We had an apartment building behind the house as well that we did the same thing, because we would sleep out in a tent in the backyard. We had like one of these big canvas military tents, and we would set it up, and we'd camp out in the backyard, and we'd do the same thing. We'd run up to that dumpster, and we would slam the lid and hide behind it, and you'd always see this one woman come to the window and be looking out, you know, like trying to figure out what was going on. I don't know, man. Andover was just great. I've got so many stories about that area. So, yeah, whenever I get some time and I can run down there, it's about an hour and a half drive at least. It's out by Conneaut Lake Park. We used to go out there all the time, and lots and lots of stories and memories from that area. So, anyways, I don't know how long I've been jabbering on here, but I'll let you guys go. I just wanted to share some of those memories with you because they're so funny and they're great memories and just my favorite place I've ever lived. It's because of that town that I love movies like Groundhog Day and Funny Farm and things like that, you know, that take place in little towns. But anyways, wherever you guys are waking up, whatever time it is, make the best of your day. Do something for somebody else, pay it forward. Let's make this world a better place. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.